Welcome to Engage,
where we are inspired by Jesus impacting our city and the world.
Living this way is an art form that is best when practiced together. We do this together by resisting apathy,
Welcoming everyone and making sure no one is left out.
participating in remedying the concerns of those around us and around the world.
Telling our stories, and just by actually being, eating, and doing life together.
We believe that every day is another chance to live by faith
Labor in love.
and endure with hope. Join us, create with us, as we follow the brushstrokes of the Creator.
welcome to Engage.
The past year for me has been full of life change. I've moved twice within the past 9 months. I got married and became a stepmom. On the slide, you'll see a photo of us three. At the end of last year, I found out my dad had cancer and fluid around his lungs. And going into the new year, we really didn't know what to expect as a family, which I am glad to say that he is cancer-free today. So I'm so grateful for the prayers and the support I had through that. And I also had to make some major decisions surrounding my business, scaling and hiring and finding a new roaster and all the things that go into being an entrepreneur. And honestly, the list could go on. And I don't know about you, but when I'm surrounded and in the midst of drastic change, I become very reflective. I go a little inward. And one of the things I've thought about a lot over the past few months is my current community and the people who have been key players in my life. And as humans, our community and relationships, well, they shift and change as we journey throughout life. That's normal. And some relationships are lifelong, while others are just, designed for a season. And on the slide, you'll see some photos of just people. I thought it'd be fun to just show you people in my life who have made an impact. But I've had spiritual mentors. I've had people who've helped me process, discern, deconstruct, and reshape my faith. I've had business mentors, people who've given me wisdom, encouragement, and opportunities, professors who poured into me in school, and people who helped me and surrounded me as I launched my own business 3 years ago. And I've also just had really near and dear friendship, the people that just their presence alone acts as a light, the people that encourage me, champion me, give me a safe place to just be and process and navigate life with someone. And unfortunately, I've also had to mourn friendships. Even over the past year or so, I've had friendships that I thought surely would last way longer than they did. But even in the midst of the pain and the hurt and confusion and discomfort, I have found a level of comfort and contentment knowing that that person still played such a huge role in my life. And at the end of the day, community is a gift, and the relationships and the role we play in each other's lives is valuable. The theme for today's message is God gives us people to guide us. Our primary focus today, we're going to be looking at John the Baptist and how he helped guide people towards Jesus. And we're also going to be talking about Zachariah and Elizabeth in Luke 1 and their story and how Elizabeth became pregnant with John. So I'm going to hop down to Luke 1, 11 through 17, and I'm going to read it for you now. But this is when the angel came to Zachariah. And it says, "While Zachariah was in the sanctuary, an angel of the Lord appeared to him, standing to the right of the incense altar. Zachariah was shaken and overwhelmed with fear when he saw him. But the angel said, 'Do not be afraid, Zachariah. God has heard your prayer. Your wife Elizabeth will give you a son, and you are to name him John. You will have great joy and gladness, and many will rejoice in his birth. For he will be great in the eyes of the Lord. He must never touch wine or other alcoholic drinks. He will be filled with the Holy Spirit even before his birth. And he will turn many Israelites to the Lord their God. He will be a man of the Spirit and the power of Elijah. He will prepare the people for the coming of the Lord. He will turn the hearts of the fathers to their children, and he will cause those who are rebellious to accept the wisdom of the godly." And while I found this passage, I actually found some joy in the parallels of Jesus and John's birth stories and their ministries. And I do this weird thing with biblical characters that I like to picture them in modern day settings. So as I read this and as I was kind of processing their parallels, I thought of them sitting at a coffee shop together, a local coffee shop. You can pick whichever one is your favorite. I know we're all in different areas. And I am going to say that Jesus is more of an espresso tonic guy. So I think Jesus orders his espresso tonic. And I would say John might be like a good traditional cappuccino. So he ordered his traditional cappuccino. And they sit down and they're just sipping on drinks and enjoying each other's companies. And they start sharing their stories. And I wonder if they feel any sort of comfort or connection as they talk about their mothers, the angels who visit their moms, and their ministries. I honestly wonder what that conversation would be like. And obviously, I have no idea what that interaction would be like. I mean, it's made up, so who knows? But it did make me think about the times I've met with mentors, pastors, friends. And as I was talking to these individuals and I started connecting parallels in our stories, it helped strengthen our connection. And at the end of the day, I am so thankful for a God who values connection. So some of the parallels that stood out to me as I read Luke. 1, it was a miracle that Mary and Elizabeth both conceived a child. Elizabeth due to her old age, and Mary because, well, she was a virgin. 2, I thought it was super cool that Elizabeth and Mary were pregnant at the same time. They were cousins, so they were able to share the journey together. I know people thought they were crazy. I can only imagine the backlash and the comments they got. And so the fact that they could support each other, to me, made me really happy. And I also wondered what the stories they would share one day with Jesus and John as they grew up. 3, I thought it was cool that Jesus and John are close to the same age. Growing up, I always had like this weird concept, and when I heard the Christmas story, I didn't realize, or when I was little, realize that John and Jesus were, around the same age. And so when I learned that, it really helped me see their relationship and dynamic differently. And 4, the fact that the angel told both Mary and Elizabeth, 1, that they were having a kid, 2, what they were going to name their kid, and 3, what role their kid would play in the world. It's absolutely wild. Obviously, John Baptist being the one to prepare and help point people to Jesus, and Jesus being the savior of the world. And I think it's so easy for us to read over stories and breeze over things, but this is wild that the angel came to both Mary and Elizabeth. And throughout the Bible, you see God appointing ordinary people to prepare the way for what God is doing. And what I love about this is that God didn't have to send John, but God chose John just like he chooses us. And for us, John's ministry is an invitation to reflect on how others have done this for us, have led the way and helped us see Jesus, but also how are we preparing the way for others to experience Jesus? And if I'm being honest, I think Christians like to overcomplicate this process a lot. A few weeks ago during our Engage gathering, we worked on a 2026 vision statement. And it was a beautiful morning of just sharing stories and experiences and casting vision. And we landed on a statement that said to welcome and embrace so people belong, believe, and become like Jesus together. And as we took time and shared stories the other week, what stood out to me is that people were able to better connect and grow in their faith because they felt they had a welcoming and safe space. That was it. And because they had a welcoming and safe space, they were then able to start believing and transform to be more like Jesus. And in my experience, some of the most mundane moments are the times God used myself and others to point people to him. And it doesn't have to be hard. And it doesn't have to be some miraculous encounter. Let me ask you, do you have a welcoming space? No? That's fine. Can you create a welcoming space? Or can you use a welcoming space that someone has already created? Are we embracing others? Do we make them feel safe? Do we make them feel seen? Are we able to let down their walls around us? Do we help connect people to communities and groups and places where they can belong and thrive? Do we speak words of encouragement, hope, and love so they can believe and feel the Lord's goodness? And do we help others become more like Jesus based on how we care for them and care for others in our life? And each and every one of us has gifts, resources, and unique opportunities to help guide others. Every one of you has a different and unique story that can be and is being used to guide people. I've taken a variety of spiritual tests over my time in ministry, and evangelism is one that always pops up, which has always felt a little weird to me because I really have no strategy. I went to school in Oklahoma and Bible Belt, and when I think of evangelism on campus, I thought about those groups of people that had like the presentations or that picture graphic that, walks people through the gospel and Jesus over here and I'm here and there's like a cross leading them. And honestly, when I saw those at first, it was very confusing to me. Does it really have to be that hard? And honestly, the times I have done less is when God is able to do more. So, how do I feel like I can evangelize? Well, my main thing is through radical hospitality. In my business, with my employees, with my friends, with my family, with the stranger in the grocery store. That's how I show God's love. In my junior year of college, junior year going into my senior year, I studied abroad in China. I was there for 6 months. It was an internship program primarily, and I traveled with two friends, Vanna and Xander. Now, if you ever traveled across seas or done any immersive activity with people, you know there is a level of connection and bond that happens. And as I got to know Vanna and Xander and share my story, they knew I was excited to see the way God may move in China. For me, the trip was less about the internship and more about a giant leap of faith and trust in pursuing the call I felt led to. And I had all these cool scenarios racing through my mind of how God may use me over there. And honestly, when I got over there, I felt isolated, lonely, and lost. I felt like I was doing absolutely nothing to further God's kingdom, nonetheless thriving. And as I got to know Xander, I learned that he had a really negative experience with the church. There was a lot of pain and hurt that he shared with me. And out of respect for him, I'm not going to share it today. But honestly, his hurt was rightfully so. When he shared his stories, my heart hurt for him. As time went on, we just kept sharing more and more. I shared about my faith, what I was wrestling with overseas. He shared more about his favorite memories from, VBS and worship band, but he also shared a lot of his pain. And honestly, I didn't think twice about it. The conversations we were having were encouraging, they were challenging, they were comforting, they were funny, but they didn't feel that crazy. I was really just doing life with him. And fast forward to our last day in China, we were at the airport and we were getting ready to go back on the plane. And I was a little emotional and I actually started crying because I was excited to have tater tots and ranch for the first time in 6 months. And as I was having my weird emotional breakdown about food, Xander looked at me and said, "Hey, I know you may not have been able to do ministry the way you thought you would, but you made such an impact on my life and you impacted my faith more than you realized." Which just made me tear up even more, so I looked even more crazy in the line. But that moment, friends, that moment I will never forget. And ultimately, that's what we are called to do. We are called to plant seeds, to be the cheerleaders, be the person who's quick to step up and help. We're called to do life with others, be there for them. We're called to be quick to listen and slow to speak. We're here to help others see all the amazing thing God is already doing and will continue to do. God is already doing the work, but he gives us people in our lives that help us connect the dots. People who can point out things that we may not see, people to encourage us and give us wisdom when we are lost. And it is simple as that. So to end today, I was going to leave us with a few reflection questions to think about throughout our week. 1, who are the people in your life that have helped guide you? 2, where are opportunities for you to provide guidance? 3, how does this tangibly look for you? What are your giftings? What parts of your community are you involved in? And 4, be mindful of new connections and opportunities throughout the week. How may God be using people in your life?